Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. My name's Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to talk about their own individual businesses, their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. Let me introduce you to the fantastic panel, but before I do, I'd just like to thank our sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, and I couldn't be happier that they've come on board for another year, sponsoring the show. So a big thanks to them. Okay, let me introduce you to Greg Pilley. He's the managing director of Stroud Brewery and also a councillor for Brinscombe and Thrupp Parish Council. Margaret Adewale, she's a director of HR department at Gloucester, and Beux Levi, or Seb Saunders, who's a singer and an artist breaking into the music industry. And it's great to have you guys on the show. Okay, let's go and see what's happening in the national newspapers, courtesy of the BBC. We'll rattle through the headlines very quickly. The Financial Times, Bank of England lifts rates for warns of inflation target not to be reached until 2025. The Eye, new UK inflation warning as Hunt admits key pledge may be broken. The Daily Mirror, interest rate pain. It's not over yet, says the Mirror. The Times, food prices on the way back down. We'd be interested to see what Greg thinks of that. The Daily Express, wrong, says the Express. The Bank of England's been wrong. The Daily Telegraph, go back to work and we can cut tax by 2p. The Sun, Phil, it's not been easy for me and Holly. The Metro, proof clause exists, and they're saying here the black cats are roaming the Cotswolds as well. The Daily Star, DNA test on the hair proves the Black Panthers are roaming around Britain. Wow. That's the headlines making the national news. Okay, well, let's start with you today, Greg. What have you picked out for us from the newspapers, please?
Hi, good morning. Well, I can verify the black cat story. There's plenty of sightings around our brewery, and the last one was about 200 yards away, apparently, from a very reliable source. But
this has been a story that's been bubbling away for a long time around these parts, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, I don't know why the Cotswolds is such a hot spot. The evidence has been pretty slight, but this is quite interesting. Yeah, I'm going to dig that one out for our archives as well. Yeah.
Okay. So
and of course, we've named a beer after that. Those sightings. So we have a big cat stout that we name after the many big cats that we see around our parts.
All right, I didn't know that.
The story I picked. Sorry, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that. No.
But it's very good, a very dark and silky stout. Yeah, well worth trying. So the story I picked out was from the BBC earlier in the week following the coronation. And of course, there were a number of arrests, which the police then later apologized for. And it follows the changing of the law just 3 days before the coronation that allowed police powers to arrest anybody they suspect that might break the peace. And really, I had a question for the panel as well. You know, is there anything that we feel strongly enough that we might want to protest, if not today, in the future? And did we think that was a good thing? And I certainly don't.
Okay, well, we'll ask the rest of the panel. Seb, what do you think? Should the police have the power to arrest like that?
No. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to me.
No, Margaret?
Yes and no. No, peace protest should go ahead. Yes, in the sense that on this particular occasion, there were people on horses. I just feel that had anything gone wrong, can you imagine the chaos? So from that perspective, I think they had a right to be overcautious.
Do you know, my opinion is actually on the same side as Margaret. It's such a huge police and security operation for the royal family that they actually couldn't take any chances. And there are people out there who want to kill people. And I'm sure, you know, and terrorist stuff going on in Russia, all sorts of different things. And they want to hurt us. And I think sometimes police just can't take a chance. And I think if they hadn't done anything and something did happen, then they'd be on, you know, there'd be all holy hell to play for, really, isn't it, really? Okay, well, thanks ever so much for that. Anything else, Mike? You got any other stories?
Well, then I picked out a positive news piece I was just looking for any positive news just to counter all the negative news we see. There seems to be nothing but bad news in the papers these days. And actually, I subscribe to a newspaper called Positive News, which I really recommend. It's fantastic, and it's positive news from all around the world. But this piece was from The Guardian, and it was that there's a new treatment for Alzheimer's, which a lot of people suffer from. And it's looking pretty positive. So again, just really picking it out as something that is quite positive. There are some really good things going on, especially in sort of healthcare and that sort of thing. Always progress. So just to pick out positive items of news and make ourselves feel better rather than the doom and gloom we always face.
It's funny, isn't it? As you get a certain age and you move towards that, it becomes more and more relevant to you, doesn't it? Really, it's one of those things, and more of a worry. So no, it's a fantastic breakthrough that's happening there. Thanks for that, Greg. Margaret,
that's all right.
What have you picked out for us today?
I picked up an article in the Times, and it's AO, the appliance supplier. They have adopted quite a hardline stance on getting their staff back to work. They employ about 3,000 people in total, and they've basically said everyone has to go back to working in the office. And if they don't want to do that, then fine, just quit. So he's being quite tough about it. But
so where does he stand on you're the HR expert. So does he actually stand with a sort of ability to do that?
Well, we have to wait and see. But his attitude is either get back to work or leave if you don't like it. Obviously, there are laws about flexible working, and as we know, home working was born out of the pandemic, and now that's over. I think companies are beginning to realise that the sooner we get back to normality, if that's what you want to call it, then the better it will be for their business. Whether that's the right attitude waits to be seen. But my concern about hybrid working is it's great from the flexibility point of view, questionable whether it's productive. Some companies have said it's been brilliant. Others have said it hasn't been. But what I worry most is about young people coming out of university, never have the experience of working in an office. And in an office, there's lots of interaction, there's lots of learning, and I think it's good. And there's going to be a whole generation of young people who've never experienced that. Is that a good thing? I'm not so sure.
It's funny, I've had a number of parents phone me up recently asking for the kids to come and work for us. Over the last 20 odd years, we've had 30 young people come for work experience at Moose and Punchline, and they really get something out of it. I think the staff get a lot out of it as well. At the moment, we can't redo it because we all work from home. The whole system has sort of changed. And I was explaining to this parent who phoned me up only yesterday, actually, asking of his daughter to come here. And he was saying how difficult it is actually nowadays to get any work placements on the same, because you can't really have somebody working from home, a young kid. You've got to work something a different way, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry. No, I'm just saying it has a knock-on effect. And, we have a certain amount of experience and background working in an office. So working from home will not have the same impact on, say, the more mature worker than it would have on a younger person straight out of school or university. And like you said, Mark, there's no opportunities for them if we all adopt the hybrid approach, because where do they go if they want work experience, like you have pointed out? How can you do that from home when you're on your own on a screen?
It's also those not being funny though, Mark, it's also those soft skills that kids learn, isn't it, when you're in an office? How to interact with people, how to make the coffee, how learning from the way that we all talk to each other, turning up on time.
Yeah, the art of conversation, the art of getting on with people from different backgrounds. It's all learning experience, particularly for the young. And I think those kind of skills are dying, and it's not good. And then we've got the situation for the suicide rate. I know from my HR perspective, but some people coming into work has been a lifeline. So imagine you're upset, you perhaps home life isn't so great. You come into work, you have some sort of release from it. If you're at home all day, it must be ridiculously difficult. And so, you can see the suicide rate has got higher, and maybe, that could be one of the reasons for it. Nowhere to go, no outlet, no one to talk about it, no release. On the other hand, for some people it's great, but for some not so great. So we need a balance.
Yeah, and suicide rate for young men in particular is extremely high, isn't it?
Mm.
Sorry, Greg, you were saying?
I was going to say, you also get into a cycle. You start home working, then you actually find it quite difficult to get out. And then you're sort of trapped in your own home.
Yes.
And of course, I mean, my feeling is that it's all a case of business by business, because it works for some people and it doesn't for others.
Yeah.
We're largely a manufacturing business. We run a bar and cafe, and it's difficult to do that from home. So we're fortunate, even through the pandemic, we continued making beer and people, excuse me, came in. So I never stopped going to work for any period. And in our bar and cafe, we employ about 50 to 60 people, and 50% of them are under 24 and quite often first-time employees. So we provide quite an important place for first-time employment. And it's great to see, people really benefit from being in the team. A lot of our work and development happens as corridor chats. Really important to be there.
No, thanks so much for that, Greg, as well. I mean, Seb, did you ever get work experience when when you left school?
Yeah, so I mean, over the years, to sort of subsidize my musical endeavors, I've had a number of jobs, and as I work from home now, and I have done for a few years, and for me it works great because I'm pretty self-sufficient. I'm comfortable with my own company, but while I'm a proponent for the option to work from home, I have a younger brother who is he's turning 16 this year, and I was talking to my dad and saying, me and my dad are both self-employed, so I was saying, he really should be vying for that if like his main male influences are doing that. But at the same time, we both agree he needs to go out into the world, go to jobs, and get that experience that you're talking about, that sort of everyday thing that you can't really teach unless you're in different environments with different types of people. And so yeah, I think it is really important for like you say, for young people to get out there and be in those situations before you maybe have the choice to, or rather give yourself the option to work from home and be by yourself, because it can be quite lonely and eventually detrimental, I guess, to your mental health. So yeah,
Your brother, you don't mind me asking, is this type of guy to walk over and shake somebody's hand, if he's in a room with other people, got introduced, those sorts of things? Or
yeah, for sure.
I think you learn it from your parents. If you got it from your parents, and that is passed on, and it just kind of works. But if you haven't had that from any other outlet, you don't have those soft skills. Same as picking up the telephone, all those sorts of things. Anyway, Seb, let's talk about.
I would completely agree. I mean, which teenager washes up at home? No, you've got to go out to a workplace to learn how to wash up.
They can wash up, but they can wash up pretty badly. I reckon they do it deliberately. They wash up badly deliberately, especially. Seb, what have you picked out for the papers then, please?
Okay, so I've gone with The Guardian. On page 8, it's quite an on-brand topic. The headline is Root Notes, Artist Listens for the Secret Sounds Made by the World's Largest Living Organism. So it's about a forest called Pando, which is the largest single tree forest. And it started out as an art project where they were just recording the sounds of nature, I guess, with a thing called a hydrophone, which picks up very low frequencies. And then they started to realize that the vibrations of sort of the leaves brushing against all of the trees when a storm would roll through was being picked up and sent through the trees into the root system. So they started to surmise that perhaps there was a network that was connecting all of these different trees together. And then it sort of shifted into a science project, I suppose. And they're trying to understand whether you could hit on a tree in one part of the forest and hear that somewhere else because it's sending signals and the vibrations through. And there's a great documentary called Fantastic Fungi that talks about how mycelium connects different trees and forests by sending signals specifically for things like resources. So it would know if one tree is lacking in something, and other trees will send it through the mycelium to that other tree. So yeah, quite an interesting thing that's a mixture of the sound aspect and the artistic aspect and the scientific and the way we understand nature, sort of talking to each other and connecting with each other. So yeah, fascinating stuff.
Great story. Is there anything else you got there as well?
Yeah, there's another one sort of on brand that I liked that I heard about a couple of days ago as well. Taylor Swift fans have picked up this. There's a book that's coming out that's by an anonymous author, and Taylor Swift is kind of renowned for putting Easter eggs in her music and little tidbits here and there for her fans to find. So one of the key things is that her favorite number is 13, and this book is coming out on June 13th. It has 554 pages, which if you add 5 + 4 + 4, that's 13. So her fans have concocted this theory that this book is by her, and she's not announced it. So there's something else that's happened where I think in one of her posts she's put "Dear Reader," so they're like that's suggesting, and it's gone to #1 and #2 in pre-orders in Amazon and a couple of other book places. And yeah, I think Variety have come out and said it's definitively not by her. So yeah, I just found that really interesting, the sort of virality of fandoms and what they can do. They can make or break a product, really. And who knows who this book is by. I think it's supposed to be by a celebrity, and we know it is an autobiography, but yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to this book if it isn't the Taylor Swift. Maybe it will, maybe it'll still do well, who knows. But
great story. I hate to say it, I'm a real Swiftie, by the way. I've actually got the CD in my car. I just think she's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Very sorry to hear that she broke up with her boyfriend as well, the English guy, but she's going out with another English guy apparently, isn't he? Anyway, moving on. We won't get trapped into that particular area. Greg, let's talk about your business. Obviously, you know, you make the beer, you got the restaurant there. I mean, how are things? The cost of electricity, you actually feature in our next magazine as well about the rising cost of energy. Can you just give us an overview, please, about that?
Yeah, I mean, the energy, it's sort of the uncertainty. We're not able to actually cost things really effectively forwards because it's a moving feast. We recently applied for the intensive electric users discount, which I spent all afternoon doing, and then discovered that there actually isn't a discount because government hasn't actually issued any credits against that power. I have to also say that my electricity provider, we have 100% green from Ecotricity on a flexible tariff. And they've been fantastic as providers, and we've always had a very fair rate as well. So it's never quite shot up as much as some. And there's people out there who went contracting power, trying to fix their power at a time when power levels were quite high. So they're really suffering because they, fixed their rates at a time that's really high. And actually power hasn't quite hit the heights that we expected. So the challenge really is that we don't know. They are certainly high. I mean, we were paying about £33,000 a year electricity in the previous year. It's now double that. We're looking at about 70,000, but potentially it could reach heights of about £100,000 a year just for electricity alone.
So,
but yes, it hasn't quite got there.
Sorry, Greg. So you've also got the price of food going up for your restaurant, and the minimum wage has gone up as well. So
everything's gone up. No, we worked out in order to do exactly the same, like break even, maybe slightly better than break even. We've got to sell about £400,000 to £500,000 worth more products and services than last year, just to stay exactly the same. That's to cover rising costs. So, for example, we're a living wage employer. We put up the lowest wages by the living wage, which added about £40,000 to our annual bill, which means we've got to sell about £120,000 worth more beer and services just to cover that cost. And then you add electricity and other inputs, and that's where we get to, £400,000, which is a 20% rise in sales, or adding 20% in cost to those goods in order to stay exactly the same. And I think that's a fairly common picture.
So half a million quid basically in order to stay exactly where you are. So you say a rise in sales or putting up the prices. I'm assuming that you're doing both. We're trying to.
Well, exactly. I mean, we haven't put prices up by 20%. It's more like 10%. So we're actually, there's a balance between those things. You know, it's about selling more, putting up prices, and being more efficient as well. You know,
What's your best-selling beer at the moment?
it's always budding. It's our launching beer, flagship beer, the one people know most, and we sell twice as much of it as anything else. And that's in cask and keg.
The last time I was with you, you were with Hugh Wordsley.
Hugh Fernie Whittingstall.
So yeah, I can never get his name right. Lovely guy. Did a great interview with him as well, but don't mind me saying. And how's his beer gone down?
It still continues out. We don't have a huge amount of sales of it. We brewed a beer with stinging nettles in. It's called Stinger, and it's a Hugh Fernie Whittingstall River Cottage beer.
Yeah.
And we do a few others as well, sort of with different botanicals in. They're not huge selling beers, and largely because they're not our own products and brand. And of course, we focus largely on our own brands, and those find their own market. It's quite sort of reactive sales. I would like to say that yesterday we just won 2 golds in the Wales and West. So our current lager, light lager, is the best lager in the west of England and all of Wales. So we're pretty chuffed about that. And we've just done a seasonal beer called Easy Peasy, which has a bit of lemon peel in it as well, 2.6%. And amazingly, won a category right up to 4.4% beers, which so the stronger beer, the more character it has, there's more ingredients in it. So to do lower alcohol beers is quite tricky. So we're pleased that our 2.6 won a gold again in that same category for all of West of England and Wales. And that's an industry award judged by peers rather than public. And so we're pretty pleased by that.
Well, congratulations. That's absolutely fantastic news. Well done, Mick.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so we go to, thanks for that, Margaret. We'll go to you now. Obviously, you know, you're a HR person. Last time we spoke, we were saying about the problems of people working from home and companies that you're dealing with, trying to get those people back into work, a bit like the headlines, but also having to change the way that management is dealing with these people as well.
Oh yes, it's not simply a case of right, everyone get back to work. People have got used to not being at work. All the things that we didn't really think about before the pandemic, we just went into work. If we had to put our children into a nursery, if we have to pay for traveling, if we had to put petrol in our car, whatever you had to do to get to work, you did. And now we have a situation where all those things have become problems. Putting petrol in your car, paying public transport, putting your children into a nursery and going into work. Everyone is, oh, I can't do this, it's too expensive. And so, yeah, so it's an administrative nightmare. But having said that, you know, my stance is for my clients is to just do it over time. It's not going to happen overnight. So start thinking about your policies in the future and give people time to get used to the idea that it's going to happen.
Now, the other thing you told me before is there was a lot of cases you were working on with sort of companies having problems. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, one of the issues that we had going back was people working abroad and not working from home. And companies, at first they didn't mind, but I did point out to them that they have to be careful because the employment law relating to that country will apply if anything goes wrong. So the best thing they can do is get their employees back to working from home. And on paper, when you sign your employment contract, don't forget you put your home address on that. So again, as far as the employer concerned, if they wanted to contact that person, that would be the address that they have on their records. So there's a lot of potential issues that can arise from that, but it seems to sort of smoothed out, if you like, because most of my clients now, their employees are back in the UK.
Right. Okay.
I think it's just the novelty of working from home and the concept that you can work from anywhere,
And are you
which to a
seeing more
certain
people?
extent
And are you
is
seeing more?
true.
Sorry, are you seeing more people go back to the office? Is it?
People are still holding out, if I'm honest, because there's some roles where it doesn't really matter. Manufacturing, I think, is one of the clients where the office can work from home, but the shop floor staff, they have to come in. So to make things a bit fairer in those circumstances, I recommend for companies to have everybody back in the office.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's still a massive problem out there. Still a massive problem. And then, of course, it's all about the retention of people. And
I think at the moment, people have choices. As you know, there's a huge problem with recruitment. You can't get staff, and a lot of companies are struggling with that. So at the moment, the employee has the power. I will leave because I will find another job that will allow me to work from home. But quite frankly, over time, I think that will change. And then it always goes in swings, doesn't it? First is the employer is in control, and now the employee is in control. But I think it will shift back over time.
I think if there's a recession, it will definitely switch back.
Yeah.
You know, and I still think with the rising cost of energy, the war in Ukraine, all these problems we got, Brexit, still causing massive problems. Thanks ever so much for that, Margaret. Seb, let's go over to you. So tell us a little bit more about Beux Levi. How long have you been doing that? The record that you brought out about me. How long have you been working in the music industry now?
So I suppose in the music industry, I guess semi-professionally, probably about 12 years. And then I was doing mostly pop punk, youthful music, if you like, and touring around the world doing that. And then I've been on a sort of journey of trying to figure out what I want to do as a solo artist for quite a few years now. And Beux Levi has been really since some point last year. I think I decided on the name in August, and I already had a few songs. Like I had About Me, sort of waiting to be released, and yeah, I put that one out as it was officially my second release, but really the first one that I pushed because Spotify has a thing where you have to claim your artist page. So I put a small intro track out kind of quietly first, and yeah, so it's just one of those things that I'm trying to grow steadily. Like I said, I have experience in the music industry, but it's always different when you're starting again, and it's a different genre for me. So yeah, I'm just kind of taking it as it comes and trying to be consistent with releasing a song every month and posting on social media and doing as much sort of independent advertising as I can before I start to build a team and go down the potential route of a label or something like that.
So how does it actually work then? You say about releasing it. So you made the track. Did you write the music yourself and you produced the music yourself, or?
Yes, yeah. So all of my music is self-written and self-produced. I do have a sort of small circle of people that I'll rely on for some instruments. So I have a drummer that has been with me since my time in the band, and a couple of friends they're doing well with music themselves that I will rely on for sort of tips and just getting their opinion on certain things. But yeah, other than that, it's all completely self-written and self-produced, which is something that I'm quite proud of. But I'm not opposed to working with people in the future. It's just has been that way for me so far.
Yeah, so you started. I looked it up actually because obviously I met you around the 16th, 17th of February. You sent us a press release and I interviewed you then. And the single was About Me. And I think it's actually brilliant, by the way. I've said this to you before. I really, really enjoyed it. Hence, we've invited you back, and I've been sort of following you. So, what did you do after About Me? How did About Me get on? So, and what did you actually? How did you release it first of all?
So yeah, that one did pretty well. I think in terms of the initial sort of feedback and results, it's the best so far. I did also, I think it sort of probably speaks volumes. It was the one that I spent the most time on. Also had the largest kind of marketing budget towards. But yeah, a few things. I guess that the key thing for my current fan base, if you like, the people that have sort of followed me through all of my projects, that was just posting regularly. And also I dived a lot more into TikTok, so posting every single day. And each social media platform has their own promote or advertising model. So you can promote your posts that you've already put up and target different audiences. TikTok is pretty good for that in terms of growing your following. And then there's also playlist submission websites that you can go to. So you buy credits essentially to just submit it, and then they will decide whether it's fitting for their playlists. About Me got on quite a few playlists, which was great. There's always things like BBC Introducing, which you upload a song to, and then if they like it, your local radio will play it, and then eventually you hope that they would bump you up into national. And that's kind of the main approach, really. You can also go for webzines and magazines and different publications to try and get some write-ups about you, which is always great for people that are. It's kind of a knock-on effect. If people want to put you on a playlist, they might look you up through Google, and if you have things written about you, then they're more likely to then themselves sort of stick their neck out and put you on their playlist. So yeah, it's just a number of things that you're trying to piece together that kind of help each other along the way. But yeah, it's always a kind of a guessing game, because the first song that I put out before About Me just got picked up by the Spotify algorithm and is now my most played song, and I didn't do any promotion on that one. So yeah, you never really know what's going to happen with it, but yeah.
So you released About Me, and you've done 3 other songs now. What's the second, third, and fourth song?
Well, About Me was technically the second, and then I have another one called Start Over, which I was also sat on for quite a while, which is a bit more of an R&B heartfelt kind of song. And then my most recent song is called Always Running, and that's a more electronic-y vibe. I did some interesting stuff with my vocals, and I'm going to be releasing a reimagination version with a couple of artists that I'm friends with. And that'll probably be next month. So yeah, those are the 4 songs that I have right now.
Well, keep us posted. We won't say all the very, very best of luck for that. I really admire you, mate. Okay, well, anyway, so we're kind of wrapping up. We're running out of time, so we'll just quickly go through what's caught your eye in this week's punchline. I'll start with you, actually, Seb. What's caught your eye in this week, please?
So yeah, I also was looking out for something, like we've been saying, a little bit more positive and heartwarming. So it was about the charities, 10 charities that have received £5,000, and they're all animal welfare and shelter and that kind of charity. So I think that's great. You know, I think the cat picture was maybe what drew me in, because I've always had cats throughout my life. And I think one day I've always said to my family and friends that I would love to own a sanctuary of some sort. So in a couple of decades' time. So yeah, it's just great to see that those kind of things are getting support, and yeah, just a heartwarming story, I think. Yeah,
it's funny how those sorts of pictures really draw you in. We used to do a little funny feature called Cats in Toast, and used to have cats and put their heads through toast, and the website used to go nuts on it. Never mind all the different problems in the world, those cats with toast. Anyway, thanks for that, Seb. Greg, what have you caught in this week's punchline, please?
I saw you had an article there about Wetherspoons who had done record sales.
Yeah.
And I thought that, of course, that's relevant to us and interesting. What it shows is that people still want to go out. I think there are people really suffering. High-end restaurants, high-cost experiences are still struggling, but people want to go out, and if you can get out for a good value meal. And so pubs, I think, are still hanging in there, and certainly we see that in our venue, that people are still, wanting to get out and enjoy with friends.
I think the thing is, it's all about value, isn't it?
That was the headline.
Thanks ever so much for that. Margaret, what have you caught in this week's punchline, please?
I was reading about the adult gaming centre plans for Cheltenham that's been thrown out. There were plans for a 24-hour gambling venue in Cheltenham town centre, which I just personally thought was outrageous. Anyway, it's been thrown out following huge backlash by the public. People have just said how gambling can have a blight on the lives of people, and their high suicide rates amongst young people as well. And they felt that any gambling could increase that. Also, it would not be good for the town as well. And so, fortunately, it was thrown out.
Thankfully,
yeah.
Margaret, common sense prevailed. I mean, you're talking about the brewery quarter, and the millions and millions of pounds that's been pumped in to regenerate that area. and then you have a gambling site with 60 slots. I don't know if you guys know as well, 60 slots open 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So if you've got a gambling problem, you can go there at any time. I just found it absolutely disgusting, but there you go.
That's what I found outrageous, a 24-hour. I just thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. I'd just like to thank my fantastic panel for joining us. My brilliant sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. I forgot to put the back screen on there, so sorry, guys. And for you for watching. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining Punchline Talks. Bye.
Bye.